Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of CS 510P, no, 410P 510. I just call it 410J because that's what I want to call it. But anyway, welcome back to Advanced Programming with Java. Let me give you a quick overview of what we're going to do tonight. I want to start off, the way I usually start off class with some Q&A. I call it Prime Minister's Questions. So then I'll sit down, you'll stand up, ask a question, or go, and I'll answer it. No, it's not like that. You guys ever watch Parliament on C-SPAN, like 2 in the morning or something when you can't sleep? It's amazing. It's European-style democracy. Anyway, we're going to start with that. And then I think tonight will be sort of a combination of me doing some more coding, telling you more about how to do TDD. And then we've also got some handouts to cover. We'll talk about how you document your projects, and I'll show you sort of how Maven has some neat facilities for generating documentation for your projects. This has come up on Slack a couple times. I'll talk about how to submit your projects. This, of course, is a very important thing. And then we'll also watch a cheesy video about pair programming and talk about continuous integration, how you can continuously build your code in a clean environment to make sure that nothing is broken. So we got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, but what I want to start with is the questions that you have. So we've been doing this for a week now. Thanks to all of you who have posted on Slack, who have asked questions there, wanting clarification. But what else can I tell you now in real time here in class? Yes?
Are you going to cover more on what goes in the README?
Yes, I will cover more of what goes in the README as part of the documentation. Yep, good. Anybody can top that? Huh? The README? Yes?
How frequently do you delete your tests?
How frequently do I delete my tests? Rarely. The tests are there, and as over time, the tests provide a cushion, a security blanket, a safety net, I don't know, whatever analogy you want to call it, for your code. So as you make more changes, you go back and rerun all of your tests, and it verifies that you haven't broken anything. So I delete tests when the code that they test no longer exists. So let's say I do a major refactoring, all of a sudden I don't need a class anymore. Great, I get rid of the tests too. There's nothing left to test. I might also delete tests when the desired behavior changes. So the thing that I'm testing is no longer a valid thing for my software to do. Of course, I'll delete the tests then. As an application gets larger and larger, and especially if you're doing integration tests, you might get to a point of you might get out of balance with the amount of time it takes to run the tests versus the value of the rapid feedback. So yes, if you have a suite of tests that takes 24 hours to run, maybe you're running too many tests. And so a very common thing is to then cull that down into hey, here are here's the smoke tests that just make sure to validate enough functionality that I can feel safe moving on for most things. But then periodically you want to run the full regression suite to make sure that all of the nooks and crannies are being validated. So that answer? Okay. Good question. Yeah.
Are you going to expand more on kind of the difference between the integration tests and the tests we run for specific classes?
Yeah, I can talk more about integration tests, and we'll be running some more integration tests tonight. I think the difference will be really brought home though when we start looking at Project 4, where you have the REST API. Because there you'll see that the unit tests, you'll see that the integration tests are much more complex. There, we'll see that the unit tests actually spin up a web container, a web server, and then run programs to call the REST API and things like that. That's sort of an order of magnitude more complex than the integration tests you're going to see in the first 3 projects, which are invoking the command line. That's good questions. Keep them coming. Yeah?
How do you test when you exit your code so the whole system.exit 1 unsatisfactory?
So how do you test that? Well, so there's the integration test has that run invoke main method that returns that main method result. That's the API. You're talking about how I do that, how it's implemented?
No,
or
I'm
no?
having a hard time making unit tests if I exit.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. So let me dive into that a little bit. So here's my student integration test. So and actually, this is a difference between the integration tests and the unit tests. So you're right. In a plain old unit test, this just calls the code straight out, like the student class. And I guess we don't have too many examples of it because we haven't built these out yet. But these was called like the instance methods of the student directly. So this is like this is the application under code. This is just the plain old student tests. The integration tests, these tests extend something called invoke main test case, and this is a piece of code that I wrote that allows you to do that will do things like capture what's written to standard output and standard error, and also catch it. Will handle it and capture the fact that system.exit was called. So you're right, system.exit exits the JVM, and so you try to put that in as a plain old unit test, and you run your first test and it calls system.exit, and that's it. That's not what you want to do, right? What you want to be able to do is have this repeatable, you want to be able to call the code that calls system.exit multiple times. And so then I am so proud of myself that I used like some old stuff. Anyway, I'm not going to go into. I'm going to resist the urge to go into this now because I think it's really cool. But if you go and look at the source code for this main method result, I play some funny Java games with things like security managers and stuff, and then overriding what standard out and standard error mean. These are all Java APIs that support all of this. So that when you actually run your code, we capture what's been written to standard output and standard error, and we also, let's see here, and then we also capture through this magical security manager here the status code that's invoked when system.exit is called. So not something that I expect you to know, something that if you're curious about, go ahead and check it out, and endorse me on LinkedIn for stupid Java things. So. But yes, that's how it works.
Where's this code?
So let's see here. I think in the you can navigate it in the project by it's my code, but the way I have the project set up is that it downloads the source code and puts it in a jar, and so IntelliJ ought to let you navigate to it. It's also, if you go to my Portland State Java repository, so not the Getting Started and not the one for summer 2019, this is the plain old Portland State Java, you can get to it there. Let's see here, invoke main, oh, where is it? There used to be an easy way to get there. Anyway, of course, it's all over the place. I'm just doing a text search. You should actually be able to do the file search. Can you still do that? Say slash, what did I just do? /.java.
What I've been doing is, in IntelliJ, you can right-click things and go to declaration,
No, wait, really?
and it'll take you to it. And if you do it for this, it asks you if you want to. You have to authorize it to decompiler first, but.
Oh, sorry, in IntelliJ. Sorry,
Yeah,
you're okay. Oh, really? It's having you decompile it.
It decompiles it.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I don't know.
I think it's the same thing as your control click.
But it still
Yeah.
It still opened up the class.
Okay, yeah, but I won't give you the comments that I worked so hard to write now. So sorry then. Well, actually, another way to do it is to. So anyway.
What's wrong with just control clicking like you are?
Well, it works for me. So it's finding the source code for me. Probably because it finds it in my local Maven repository. Because of course I built it into my local Maven repository. Because it's the same machine that I build that repository with this new one. I don't know how to get that to work. Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to tell IntelliJ to go download the source code. But when we went to decompile it, it didn't give you an option to download the source code, did it? Okay.
It does actually.
Oh, okay then.
It says
Do that.
Download sources.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Downloading sources. Okay. Oh, yep. There it goes.
Yay! You got my comments. Okay. So that's what you need to do. And so the way that works is that as part of my build for my code base, I deploy not only the jar file, which is the compiled class files, up to a Maven repository. I also deploy an artifacted jar file that contains all of the source code up there too. And so this is nice, right? And so then tools like IntelliJ or Maven or whoever can go and download that, and everything's all associated together. This is one of the things I like about Maven is it provides standards and provides conventions for doing all of this kind of stuff. And so then, because there are these conventions out there, IntelliJ can leverage those conventions to make it really easy to get the source code when the author, myself in this case, has published it. How's Project 1 coming? Okay, there's been some questions. Everything's okay? Okay, has everybody at least started Project 1? Have they got their, a project, their Maven project created, and are you running Maven and things like that? Okay, good. Because that's probably the most challenging thing. Yeah.
What's the name of the directory for Project 1?
Name of the directory for Project 1? Appointment book, APPT book. That's probably what it's created as. Yeah.
Is the POA still due 72 hours before project deadline?
Yes, the POA is due 72 hours, which is like Sunday night. Yeah. And I'll talk about what the POA is in a little bit. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So let's see here. We'll close out of this. So, the first thing I'm going to do. So, last week we all walked through that Getting Started repository, right? So there's something new this term, and it has all these instructions and things like that. I hope you found it helpful. For getting started and getting. I hope the instructions were good, and I hope you've been working through this. In the last week, I've made some changes to the Getting Started repository. So I added a CMD file for creating Project 1. I also added something called a parent POM, and so I've made some changes up in the Getting Started repository. And the first thing I want to do tonight is merge those changes into my summer 2019 repository. Because, hey, well, there's like good stuff there. And so I'm going to follow the instructions in this section, which is how can I get changes that other people make into my clone? In this case, I'm both the person that made the change and it's my clone, but, pretend I'm you. I'm younger and handsome than I am. So I've already configured. And so what I need to do is I need to take my summer 2019 repository and configure it to say, hey, listen, there is a remote repository, another repository, and I'm going to give it a special name. I'm going to call it Upstream. And this is the Upstream repository, and then I want to take the changes that have been made to the Upstream repository and merge them into my Downstream repository, into my summer 2019 repository. And the way I do that is I issue a command called git pull. Now, what does pull do? What does it mean to pull from a Git repository?
Download it.
Download the changes, yes. So, right, you do a clone, you've got a local repository, and then it's associated with a remote repository. And what pull does is it goes off and asks the remote repository, hey, what are the recent changes? Since the last time I pulled from that repository, what are the changes? Oh, okay. It'll tell you what the changes are and send all those changes down and integrate them into your local checkout. Here, I'm saying don't pull from the origin, pull from the upstream, and master is the name of the branch. So pull from that other repository. So basically pull from the Getting Started repository into my summer 2019 repository. So I'm going to do that. We'll see what we have for conflicts. Oh, cool. It said, okay, so what it did is it then asked GitHub, hey, send me all the changes. All the changes came down, and it had to merge some things in, meaning I've made some changes locally in my repository, and so it's reconciling those with the other changes that have been made, and it's reconciled all that, and now needs to make a new revision, a commit to the repository, and so then it prompts me to add a message. The default message is just fine in this case. So I'll just, and this is VI that it pops up, so I'm just going to write and quit. And now it told me, oh look, hey, here are a bunch of changes that have been merged in. So there have been changes to the README, changes to this check for JavaScript. It added a pom.xml. It created some, it updated some files. This is all cool. And so now I've got all the changes from upstream. Hooray for me. And so one of the first things that I want to do then is make sure that everything still works. So I don't have terribly much here. I just have my student. I probably should have checked this before, but now I want to do a Maven clean verify and just make sure that everything works. So far, so good. Remember what Maven clean verify does? What does clean verify do? What does clean do? It gets rid of all of the generated artifacts. So all of your class files, your jar files, everything in that target directory, right? So it basically everything that is, you've got the source code and there's everything derived from the source code, all the compiled code, all the assembled code, all the packaged code. That all goes in the target directory. It basically blows away the target directory. What does verify? What does the verify phase do?
Build a jar file.
Builds a jar file, that's true, and so much more. Runs tests. What tests does it run?
Integration tests.
Yep, unit tests and integration tests. And you know what the verify phase does, though? It runs final verification on the integration tests. So yeah, basically, Maven clean verify is blow away everything, start all over again from fresh, and do everything that you can. So it'll compile the code, it'll run the unit tests, it'll build the jar file, it'll run the integration tests, verify that the integration tests all pass, or we'll run the verification on the integration tests. And sure enough, yes, it did all of that. So that's super good. So everything still works, which actually I'm kind of disappointed about because I was hoping that it would show off that problem that we saw in the someone saw in Slack, but maybe I'll see it now. So, oops, there's a file that I want to open. Let's see here. I gotta find it here. PSU get student. Okay. Student directory. I want. Okay. So when I did the pull from upstream, it created this. It brought in this new file called pom.xml, and this is a pom.xml. Yes, it's not in the project. I realize. This is a pom.xml that lives at this top level directory. So when we created the student project, it created the student directory, and the student directory has a pom.xml file in it, and that is the project for the pom. But what we're going to see tonight, actually, did I also create an appointment book? Oh, I did. Let's just make sure appointment book still builds. I have I have a directory with the student project. I have a directory with the appointment book project, and so now I have two Maven projects in my repository. I added this top level pom.xml to be the parent project of both of those. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to configure that parent project so that it will run both of those children projects. And we'll see why that's interesting in a little bit. Okay, well, both of those still run. That's super nice. So here I am looking at my parent POM, and well, I guess the way we know this is that it's in the parent directory. Now, here's some interesting things about the parent POM. So this parent POM itself has a parent, which is like my master, Uber POM, which provides all the configuration on like what version of JUnit to use, and here's how to configure some of the plugins. That's all interesting right now. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to replace all of these things like your user ID, well, with my user ID, like this. And so this is the artifact ID. So what I'm doing is I'm creating this parent project that'll have two submodules. So here's another GitHub user is David Wentlock. Right there. There'll be two modules. So the modules are subprojects. It's unfortunate they're called modules and not subprojects. The first one's going to be student. And then, oh look, IntelliJ even knows. Appointment book. I guess it doesn't know about the second one. Well, that's unfortunate. Oh, because this is the student project. That makes sense. And then, actually, this is a good time to talk about it. So your POM has information about your project. And I think as we saw last week, it has information such as, hey, what are the dependent libraries? Like, hey, you need JUnit and you need Hamcrest, right? All that's, actually it's not in this one, it's probably in the student one, because this is all about code. So here, where are the dependencies? Here are the dependencies. So in your student, you need things like my examples jar in order to get the human class, which is the superclass of the student. You need the tests, my project tests, in order to get invoke main. And then you need some other third-party code like JUnit and Hamcrest. So what the POM does is it configures your Maven project to say, hey, listen, when you compile your code, when you compile your test, when you run your code, when you run your test, here are the libraries that are necessary. It also configures a whole bunch of other stuff that we'll talk about later tonight. Things like Jacoco and stuff like that. It also has sort of metadata information about your project. Things like, hey, here's which year we started it, and hey, here's the organization that did it. Information about how to find issues. What license you're using, all of this good kind of stuff. And of course, the developer. Now, by default, it has me, but you can change it to whatever it is you want. And as we'll see a little later, Maven will take all of this information and generate some nice user documentation for you. And because you followed all these conventions, then you end up with a website, a site for your project that's consistent with all of the other projects that are built with Maven. So what I've done here is I've taken this pom.xml that again came from the upstream repository, and I've customized it for my own summer 2019 repository. So I've gone and I've made it mine by putting my login ID and my GitHub ID all over the place. I've added my two projects as submodules, and I've done some more customization down here. And now what I can do is I can say, now I can run Maven at the top level directory. And what it'll do is it'll build both of the sub-projects now. So now if I say Maven clean verify up here, I think. Actually, let me scroll up. It said, oh, look, reactor build order. I don't know why it says that, but basically it's saying, hey, listen, this project consists of, this parent project consists of these two children projects, student and appointment book. And now it goes through and it runs, I guess it runs student first. And then, let's get here and we can all watch it go by. Oh, it ran it all. And look, everything passed. This is the reason I decided to add this is because over the course of the next couple of weeks, we'll be adding more projects to our summer 2019 repository. Next week, we're going to be doing code katas. Each one of them will start off with a new project. And what I wanted to be able to do is have one build to rule them all and in the darkness bind them. And that's what this parent project is, right? So it's basically now you can run all of your code with one command line. And that's super cool and super important. And we'll see how it gets even cooler in a little bit. I guess one other thing then that I want to make sure to do. So in my student project now, these have a parent POM, and it's not the POM that I want. This is referring off to my super parent POM. What I really want it to be is just the, oh, there it is. Oh, 2016, that's not right. 2019 is what I want. And oh, I want it to be Whitlock. Is it going to find that? I think that's right. I wonder if I need to. Well, here I'm going to try do the clean verify again, see if that works. So now what I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm fixing up my student and my appointment book project to use the parent POM. It's you need to refer both ways. The parent needs to refer to the child, and the child needs to refer to the parent. Things just become more consistent this way. That seemed to work okay, so that's good. And again, you would use your user ID there. No, it's not very happy about it. And let me go back and fix the other one. Actually, is my appointment book open? I don't think I have it open. Open recent, appointment book. Oh, I need to fix cones also. Portland State. I don't know why I think it's 2016, but Whitlock. And then I need to open up my cones and do the same. Oh, this one doesn't have a parent, so let's do that then. Artifact ID is, you know, I'm just going to copy and paste it from this one because it's not something I'm going to memorize. So this is kind of wiring everything together. And I also need to go back to my student, and I need to add one more project, which is the cones. Oops. I don't want student, I want this one. And now when I do a Maven clean verify of just this, of course things take runner because it's a bit longer because 3 projects are being built.
Can you say that it blows the target directory away?
I'm sorry, deletes rm-rf. Yeah, right. Yeah, it doesn't like or anything like that. No, it's like, yep. Deletes. Oh, what doesn't it like? It doesn't like the cones. Oh, interesting. Add opens isn't allowed with target range 1.8. That is true. I wonder where it's getting that from.
Yeah, I've read that somewhere.
Oh, did you get the same error? Cool.
Project 0 and budget 1.
Well, I wonder why it's target 1.8. Maybe I should fix that. Is that? Let me go back to cones real quick. Yeah, it's doing that. I don't think we want that. Let's do Java 9. Hope that's okay. You might also need to change that. I don't know. So what I just did here, oh, maybe I should explain it to you. So one of the things that you can configure in Maven is is how to run the Java compiler. And so here, probably because the cones themselves advertise that they are run with Java 8, the compiler says, hey, listen, I expect that I want you to compile the code for using Java, was previously Java 8 language syntax, and then target it to, and then create bytecode that'll run on a Java 8 VM. Because of some other stuff inherited from the parent project, it expects everything to be Java 9 or above. Oh, it still doesn't like it. Oh yeah, no tests to run. Huh. I said I should have done this beforehand, but then I wouldn't have been able to show it all to you. And then, let's see here, then you might need to fix this also. Interesting. Okay.
Would you mind going back to the modules section on that?
Yeah, sure. It's okay. There was an empty modules.
Yeah.
And then, yep, just add like the names of your project. So student, appointment, book, and cones. Although you'll probably run into the same problem with the cones I am, so you maybe don't want to do cones just yet. And so then I know what I want to do here. I want to, what do I want to do? I want to plug in, you know what? I'll go fix it later on my own time. What we'll do here is revert that. And we won't do the cones just yet. I'll leave that as an exercise to me on my own time because I really want to move on to more important stuff. Let's make sure this all works. Yeah,
Are you taping this?
I am. We got like the VHS right out here. Yeah, taping it. Oh, I'm glad someone else like uses oldie-timey language like me. Yeah, my kids don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, cool. So now I've got my parent project with these 2 tests. Oh, did I do it, Travis? I didn't, did I? Okay. I'm gonna have to do that later then. No, I'll do it during break. Okay, so now I've made some changes here, and now I'm going to commit them. And I'm going to say create, well, okay, configure my parent, configure my projects to have the parent POM. Oh wait, dependency reduce POM is under version control? Yeah, that's lame. I don't want those. Anyway, I'll get rid of them later. And push all that up. So now I've got one project that will run all of them. And a little later on in class, we'll see how that's really neat. Okay. So now what I've done is I've integrated all of the changes from the upstream repository into my own. I've leveraged this new feature of having this parent POM. And so now what I've got is the parent project that then goes and runs all of the sub-projects. Super cool.
So if you've done that and we pull the upstream master and then push it, we won't need to go into the POM file manually and change it?
Yes, you will. Because what and this is important, and it's where it gets confusing because it's both of them are my repositories. But I pushed these changes to my summer 2019 repository, right? So I'm pretending to be the student now, right? And so then I've got, this is my summer 2019 repository, and so all I pulled from upstream was the POM. I then customized the POM to have, like, which instead of saying your GitHub user ID, my GitHub user ID, right? I put all that in there. And so it is different. So no, you'll still have to go through and do some of that awkward stuff that I did for the last 10 minutes to take advantage of the parent POM. Wacky? Okay. And I probably need to add some instructions on how to do this to the README, now that I think about it. Phew. Okay. Now we can go back and do some more test-driven development. Okay, so let me go back to my student. Oops, let's refresh. Everything is new. Okay. There's something else, though, that very important that happened in the last week, and it has to do with the student project, with Project Zero. So we talked about Project Zero last week. We talked about modeling a student. And a student has certain behaviors. They say something, they have a toString, and they have properties like the classes that they take and their name. And they also have a gender. And after class, one of our students approached me, Trina, who has done a lot of research into gender and what it means for software engineering. And we had a really good discussion, we had a really good dialogue, and she educated me on the impact of representing gender as a binary choice. I added this this text to the assignment. I'm not going to read it all to you. I'm going to tell you what my takeaways are, though. For all times, people there are a number of people who haven't identified their gender as just female, just male. And even though for this project for many years, when I have modeled gender, I've used it as a binary choice. But there's an impact to that. And the impact is for people that don't identify as that binary, this software doesn't apply to them. For them, as a student in this course, for instance, who wants to do this, they can't use themselves as a test case for this program. If I was writing some software that people from outside the class are using, they can't use it. They can't, they don't know what to enter. There isn't a choice that works for them. And this really hit home to me in terms of what we're here to do as software engineers. I want people to use my code. I want to be providing services that are valuable to people so that they can bear themselves and also they'll pay me to do it. I mean, let's be honest, right? And that's part of what we need to do. And I want to make sure then that my code is usable in all respects. And so whether that means that the UI is approachable or that it works quickly, but in this case, I want to make sure that software, when it asks for information, people can answer it. So when Trina and I talked about it, I said, okay, well, how best should we represent the fact that gender really isn't a binary choice, that there are other choices out there? And we decided that it would be appropriate to add a third gender option of other. And part of the assignment is to have a pronoun associated with the gender, and the appropriate pronoun is they. So I updated the assignment to now call out that a student's gender may be male, female, or other, case insensitive. And so I want to do some test cases right now to implement that. So we still have a gender. We're still modeling it. There's still important things about modeling, these now ternary options that I want us to explore in this course. But because I want my software to be usable by the most number of people. So let's talk about that. Let's do that. So first we'll start off with some tests. And let's test with, let's see here, let's go to student tests. So what would be a reasonable first test for gender? So I guess when gender is female, student is or identifies as is female. So I'll create a student. It's a new student, and where I'm going to go, the option is name. They'll take 0 classes. Collections.emptylist. They'll have a GPA of 1.0, and the gender will be female. Oops, what doesn't it like? Oh, it has to be an array list, okay. It compiles. So then we're going to assert that student dot, guess what, we get gender method equal to female. Okay, oops. So let us add, we can add a property which will automatically generate a getter and a setter. I don't need the setter, I just need the getter. Okay, now let's run my test. It needs to build it. It's parsing it. Okay, it's failing because it expected the string female here on, oops, there we go. Here, right here. Oh, it's even underlined it for me. That's nice. Okay, now why is it failing?
Not all get gender.
Well, I've implemented it. Returns gender. But it's saying that it's returning null. Well, why is it returning null? I never said it, right. Yay. Okay. I'm seeing a potential refactoring coming on, but I'm not quite ready for it yet. What's our next test?
Just copy and paste it with mail.
Okay. Run it. It passed. Not terribly surprising because that's sort of like the way we're passing it through. Okay. And let's see here, just for the sake of completeness, let's do one for other also. Gender is other. Student is other. That sounds weird, but okay. Well, so this is pretty straightforward. Oops, did that run? No. That's the wrong button. Okay. So let's see here. We can also have, we should also have one for unknown. Oops. So what should happen when there is when gender is unknown or invalid or not supported? How about that? Is not supported. Throw an exception? I guess, yeah. And let's say that it throws, oops, expected equals illegal argument exception. This is a standard class in Java that you can use for things like this. Unsupported. You run it. It fails because expected an illegal argument exception. Okay, so let's go and implement this in the student constructor. So before we can assign gender, we need to validate the gender. So yeah, let's just call it throw exception if gender is not supported. I'll create that method right here. Is that big enough for everybody to see? Okay, so now, So now basically I've got to go through all of the options of the supported genders. So I'm going to use a switch statement because I can switch on strings now. So case when it's male or when the case is female, oops, or when the case is other. This is all cool, return, otherwise, anything else. Oops, default. Yeah, when was the last time you saw a switch statement, huh? Yeah. So operation unsupported. Not wait, unsupported. No, illegal. What was it? Illegal argument exception. Unsupported gender. Gender. Okay. Now let's try this.
You're gonna get a search there because the second piece should be female.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, okay. Eagle eyes there. But I don't pay so much attention because I think I'm awesome. So now when I go back and run all of my tests, aha, I'll see that things failed. So you're right, because like unsupported gender female, I found a bug. And you also found it because you were looking over my shoulder. Hey, pair programming. That's foreshadowing for later. You're right. So we'll fix this. Then I'll make that one pass. Oops, and then student name here. Create student named. It doesn't matter. We'll just have other. I think that'll be okay. Nice. Now everything's passing. So this is good. I want to do some refactoring now. Because because of the following. Now the actually let me commit these changes here. So so this is add a gender to the student. We'll send that up there. Commit and push. Okay. So the next test case that I want to write is the following. Because remember that one of the requirements of the gender is that it's case insensitive. So public void. So camel case gender is supported. So now if I have something like that, I don't know. Do I like this? I don't know. I don't like that. If I do that, that'll work. I think. Will it? Oops. This needs to run first.
Would you want it to be equal to that, or would you want it to be equal to the
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's like, what do we want that to be equal to? I think what we want it to be.
Because for return,
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I want that. I don't know. Okay, it's not passing. Well, first of all, it says unsupported gender female. Oh, right. We've got this. So maybe a case statement isn't the best after all. And I think I agree with you. It's like we just return the string, and yeah, and you had something. What was that?
Could we do like gender to lower and then the lowercase?
Okay. Yeah, we could probably do that here. To lowercase. Oops. Okay, and now though.
so that's really acceptable.
No, was it? It's expected. Oh yeah, right. Because we had changed the test case.
Why not do that in the constructor itself?
Okay, we yeah. And you know where I'm coming to it's like a string isn't the right way to represent this, right? It's it's got a set. There's a specific set of values of this type, right? There's 3 that we support. And I think I heard someone say something over there. Yes, an enum. Is it enum, enum? I don't know. Yes, an enumeration. Or enumeration. I don't know how you say it. Yeah, so I think I then want to refactor this so that, yes, you still pass in the string to the constructor, maybe. But what you get out with gender is an enum. Now, so okay, what's an enum? Enumeration, enum. Remember learning about that in C, maybe, or in C++? Did you like in a struct? What was it?
Customized types.
Customized type, yes, but so is a class. How is an enum different than a class?
It doesn't actually make a new type, it just sort of nests it.
Actually, in Java, underneath the covers, it's actually a class. So, but there's something special about enums versus classes.
You're associating like a set of values with numbers in a sequence.
So in C, that's correct. Enums are really just numbers underneath the covers. And I guess there is an ordinal in Java. Yes. What I'm getting at here, what I'm getting at is that an enum is like a class. It has instances, but it has like a fixed set of instances. You just don't go and create these willy-nilly. It's like, oh no, you've got like 3 of these things, but they're so strongly typed. They can have methods. They can have state. It's just like a class. So let's add one of those. So GetGender is going to return a gender instead. And I'm going to create an enum for that. And I don't want to put it in the IT directory. I want to put it in the main directory. Okay. And gender will have a couple of values, and we'll set those up later. So let's see here. Gender then needs to be gender. And let's go back to the class. Let's go back to the test. And now, let's see here. Wherever I call GetGender, it's not going to just be the string female. It's going to be a gender, not value of, but gender dot female.
I think you have to change the constructor too. It still says string gender.
Well, and that's a good point. Do we? Okay, let's let me do this. Wait, what? No, that's okay. It didn't. Oh, I see. Create a field here. I did not want that. Create enum constant. There you go. Jeez, I don't know why I did that. does that by default. Well, that's a good point. So in the constructor, should the constructor take a string or should it take the enum? What do you, the viewer at home, think?
String.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like it should. Because I feel like.
No, I mean, listen to what your gut is telling you.
I would probably say that enum, just because we're just gonna have to do extra work type converting string into enum anyway.
So there's extra work there, okay, in the constructor. No, the string, the enum.
Well, like you're gonna have to put like some sort of like if-else statement somewhere to decide whether to change it.
Yeah.
With enum to assign it. It seems like it'd make more sense in the constructor than like in main or something.
Also, if you pass it a string, then anyone who's using this doesn't have to know about the enum to use this constructor.
Yes.
But what do they need to know about?
The possible options.
Right. And so, like, one way to look at it is where does the logic for converting from a string to the enum value belong? Does it involve? It should be in the constructor. Should it be in the main? Should it be? I don't know.
Seems like it should be in the constructor so that you can just pass it strings or doubles. Simpler objects should go into the constructor, and more complex objects should come out of it.
Yes, because if the class student should be changed for something else, then maybe the other replacement won't take only male, female, and other. It might take different.
But it's still configured to only take strings.
Correct. So that instance will take care of that class. Will take care of its own work.
Well, the gender will always have the same type, but I mean, I can sort of see what you're saying. What if this was a different type of object? What if it was a date? So what if we added a birth date to the student? How would you want to represent that? And for those of you who've been reading ahead, there is a date object in Java. How would it make sense to represent that? As a string because it comes from the command line, or would you want to use the Java util date? What was that? What?
Well, probably a class with actual ints that represent, day, month, year, and stuff like that.
I think in that case, yeah, I mean, I would be inclined to go with the use the class that represents the data type, and so then the consumer, then the the consumer of this class, the code that's calling this class doesn't need to know about the date format, or rather, the date format then isn't built into this class. And then by that logic, it seems like the gender should be the thing that you pass in. I don't know. That's where I'm leading right now. Let's make that choice and see how it works out for us. We can always change it later. Because we have unit tests that'll tell us whether or not we've broken things. So yeah, let's just change this to be a gender. Okay, so now all sorts of code is broken, I'm sure. Gender is not supported. Well, let's see here. We don't need this anymore. That's nice, right? Safe delete that. So the student test now, this becomes a lot more simple because, well, you just have to go back and change a bunch of stuff. But that's not a big deal. Gender other. Create enum constant. Sheesh. And then the same thing here. Gender other. Gender other. This is female. Okay, so now these become pretty silly. So now here, this test becomes invalid. Hey, this is an example of where I delete the test. I'll need to have that logic eventually, I just don't need it now. Same thing with this one. This one doesn't make any sense. Interesting. Let's run our tests again. Well, some of them failed. Oh yeah, still using the string here. And probably right here too. Yeah, okay. So I've kind of made the GetGender a little silly now. So I don't even know if I need this stuff at all. Oh, let's keep it in there. Maybe we'll get rid of GetGender later. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Refactor, or rather introduce an enum type for gender. Interesting. Okay.
So
Yeah.
So you took those tests out, but basically they're just going to go somewhere else, like maybe in like the IT test or the student IT, because you still would want to check that at some point the parameters of
Yeah.
email and other are going into this program and then being converted to the enum, and that's happening correctly.
Yes. And so
You have to make the enum object at some point as the correct gender.
right. And maybe that's where we should go next. Let's see here. Yeah, let's do that since we're on the topic. So let's turn over to the IT test, and let's see here. Well, this will be interesting. So the test that I think, okay, so how do we can test that there is an unsupported gender. So unsupported gender prints error message. So let's see here. So name and then unsupported and whatever. Okay, and so now we assert that result.getText written to standard error contains string unsupported gender, and then we'll assert that, result.getExit code equal to 1. Okay, so we're expecting unsupported gender, it didn't write anything. Well, that's not too surprising. So now let's go back to student, let's go back to our main. And let's see here, the GPA string is that. The gender string is, which argument was that again? It's probably, let's see here, argument 1, because it's 0 based. args1. And so now this is where we need to validate it. Okay. So let's see here. Gender equals get gender from or gender from a string. Gender string. Oops. Now this is probably where I wanted that case statement that I deleted, but we can just write it again. Yeah? Yeah. So switch on gender string.to lowercase, case female, return gender dot female, case male, return gender dot, oops, code signer, what the hell is that? Now, I suppose we could probably be doing this one at a time. Oops, oh, it even tells me that I've already got it there. That's super nice. Other, return gender dot other. Otherwise, oops, default, return null. Yeah. Okay, and so now, back in my main method. Oh yeah.
I wanted to throw that exception.
I don't know. Here it doesn't seem as important because this is sort of a helper method. It's not part of the contract of the student constructor anymore. So in the student constructor, there was really no other way for me to communicate the fact that the gender was not supported, right? Because I couldn't just return a null. I kind of had to throw an exception. Here, I don't know. It seems a little overkill. I don't know. We'll see how that serves us. So if gender equals null. Actually, I didn't do this. Well, anyway, this wasn't good TDD, right? I should have just I should have implemented GetGender from string to always return null first, and then add a failing test for each, which is what I should do. Yes, Uncle Bob. He's crying right now, which is probably a weird thing to see. I'm just going to save that code for later. If gender equals null, then system.out.println with unsupported gender, and then system.exit 0 or 1. Run that again. Okay, good. Now it passes. Now let's write another one for public void, and then now we could say female gender returns exit code 0. Oh, that passed. Oh, no, wait, I didn't change it. Gotta be careful with the copy and paste. Aha, okay. 0, but now it's 1. So now let's go and implement that. So we want to do those two. All right. Oh, 0 was null. Oh, right, because, so it said instead of returning 0, it returned null, and that's true because I did not call system.exit. So I need to do that from my code here. If everything's happy, then call system.exit 0. Okay, nice. That's all passing now. And so, yep, I could go through and I could add more tests for male and other. But I think right now it's time for a break. I've been talking for an hour. So let's take 10. And sorry, what? The test? Actually, yeah, I should probably run all of them just to make sure I didn't break anything. I bet I did. Oh, I didn't. Okay, sweet. So I invoked it and I just said, hey, the exit code is 0. So let's take a break. 10 minutes, and let's start up again after, let's see here, at 6:45.